Ah! Greetings, ladies, gentlemen. God, can we turn that down, please? Thank you. God. Anyways, greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. Jen Michael here. I'm gonna review Anatomy of a Fall before that goddamn song comes back on. Let's go ahead and get started.
I just want you to know one thing. I'm not a monster.
One of the biggest mysteries of any courtroom drama when centered around a defendant is, did they do it? It's one of those suspenseful feelings that keep us coming back to the whodunit premise. And it stems from real-life trials where that same unknown is present, and it's up to the defense and prosecution to prove their side of the argument. Yet, what fiction doesn't always do is tell us that regardless of whether you're guilty or not, the perception of others is sometimes the biggest hurdle to overcome. Anatomy of a Fall takes this truth and runs with it in a very meta sort of way. The characters in the story have a perceived notion of this protagonist, as do we. And as the story continues, truths come out, lies are exposed, our perception along with those of the characters start to shift. And if that sounds boring, Anatomy of a Fall will definitely not be for you. Sandra and Samuel, along with their blind son Daniel, live in an isolated mountain cabin. Sandra is a very successful writer who has had many accolades thrown her way and is even being interviewed at the beginning of the film by a journalist. As everyone is going about their day, their son Daniel comes across the body of his father, who seems to have slipped while working on the attic of their home. As the police investigate and find inconsistencies with testimonies and the way the body was discovered, it becomes apparent that Sandra will be charged with the death of her husband, and thus needs to prepare herself for a trial and everything that typically comes from being accused of murder. Director and writer Justine Triet crafts a very intense story that leaves you constantly guessing at what the truth may be. We hear the testimony of these characters and what they were doing the day in question. But as lies get exposed, you start to shift your perception of these characters. And you start to wonder what other truths may be hiding, what they're leaving out, what lies they're crafting. And I'm not just talking about the protagonist either. Actually, by the end of the film, it's very easy to be very angry at a lot of these characters. And I think that's actually some of the brilliance of the movie itself. Front and center is Sandra Hüller, who plays the role perfectly. I don't know how to fully explain this, but have you ever spoken to someone to get their side of the story, and you know what they're telling you isn't the full picture? Like the way they're composed or speaking to you almost feel a little off? That's Sandra here. It's ever so subtle at first, especially since you don't know the character yet. But as the film moves along, you see the facade crumble. Not all at once, ever so slowly, and in a believable way. In a way, I can actually see myself going through. And that's not easy to do, so huge kudos to Sandra for being able to pull it off. The supporting cast also does an excellent job. They each bring what they need to their respective roles. But in terms of standout, I have to give huge props to Milo Mercado-Grenier, who plays the son. I actually thought they cast a blind actor in the role. So imagine my surprise when it turns out that wasn't the case. He is so good and hits all of the emotional beats perfectly. The ending testimony keeps you gripped the entire way through, and quite frankly, I have no idea how he has not been getting more award recognition throughout the year. In terms of negatives, I really only have one thing, and that's the ending. It's a bit too clear-cut, which probably shouldn't have been the case with this type of film. Now, I've heard of others saying that that's not the case, it's actually deeper than that, and I'm sure that the creators wanted to leave it a bit more ambiguous than what was delivered. But even in interviews with Justine, where she stated how she directed Sandra to play the part, it further solidifies that the ending is a bit too simple, at least in my eyes. Though I'm sure some people will like that. On a technical scale, the film is wonderful. From the beautiful cinematography of the mountain region and the cabin itself, to the clever edits in the court, I think the creators have truly crafted something special that I can easily see myself going back to again in the future. I guess I do wish it was a tad bit shorter. It is a slow burn at points, and by the time the movie was over, I was ready for it to be over, but I'm not gonna tell you not to see the movie just because of that alone. Now, if you missed out on the movie due to it being an international film, first, shame on you, but second, there are large portions of the film that are in English. So if that was your detractor, don't let it be. This is easily something that won't interfere with your enjoyment of the movie if you are someone who just doesn't like reading subtitles. With all that said, Anatomy of a Fall is a fantastic film. A suspenseful journey that will leave you thinking about its events long after it's all over. What few complaints I have should not detract you from seeking this out and giving it a watch. It's easily one of the best films of the year and very worthy of its Best Picture nomination. My verdict for Anatomy of a Fall is a 4.5 out of 5 with a recommendation to buy it. If you're a fan of whodunits, courtroom dramas, or just want to see some of the best performances of the year, this film will satisfy each and then some.
I'm innocent, you know that, right?
And that's all I have for this video, everybody. So until tomorrow, where I tackle the next Best Picture nominee. Like always, God damn it! Turn that down! I can't even hear myself think. Until next time, everybody, stay safe out there and have a good one. I'm gonna push you off the roof myself.